The thought wouldn't leave me alone. It drifted through my apartment like a ghost, settling into every quiet corner of my mind. If someone says she, tonight, would you dare to respond? It was never spoken aloud, but it throbbed behind my eyes as I stood before the tall mirror propped against my bedroom wall, the one I'd bought for this night and no other. The bathroom lights buzzed harshly from the next room, spilling a clinical glow across my small Manhattan apartment. Lavender air freshener tried, and failed, to mask the smell of nerves and old fear. My phone read 9:47 p.m. less than 2 hours until midnight. Less than 2 hours until the year turned. For everyone else, New Year's Eve meant resolutions and champagne. For me, it felt like the moment before a plunge, standing on the edge knowing that once I jumped there would be no climbing back up. Everything that could be prepared was already done. The paperwork sat sealed in a manila folder, tucked away like a secret that had finally learned how to breathe. Riley, not just a dream anymore but inked into official forms. The hormones had reshaped me slowly, patiently. Angles softened. New curves emerged. The body reflected back at me no longer felt foreign, but I had only ever lived inside it in private. Tonight would be different. This wasn't a quick errand or a test run under a baseball cap. This was Times Square on New Year's Eve. Chaos, lights, millions of strangers. A place vast enough to swallow me whole, or spotlight me completely. My eyes dropped to the clothes spread across the bed like tactical options in a war zone. The silver dress glittered under the lamp, unapologetic and loud. Beautiful. Dangerous. I imagined the sequins catching billboard light, magnifying every insecurity. My stomach twisted. Too much. Too visible. That old survival instinct flared. The boy who learned early how to disappear whispering urgently, don't. Beside it lay the safer choice. Dark jeans, a neutral sweater. Invisible. Acceptable. But the sight of them made my chest ache. They felt like surrender. Like telling myself I still needed permission to exist. I had hidden long enough. I was exhausted by it. My hand hovered, then reached for the third option hanging quietly in the closet. A charcoal sweater dress. Soft wool. Long sleeves. High neckline. Nothing flashy, but cut to follow the shape I'd worked so hard to claim. Not a scream. Not a secret. Just truth spoken calmly. I let the robe fall away, the cool air raising goosebumps along my skin. First came the lingerie, black lace and silk. No audience. No performance. Just for me. The clasp fumbled in my fingers, panic flaring hot and sharp. You can't even manage this. Then it fastened. The silk settled against my skin, grounding me. Protective. Like a quiet promise. The dress slid over my head, warm and heavy in a comforting way. It traced my collarbone, hugged my waist, curved gently over hips I still marveled at. I turned sideways, breath catching. These weren't fantasies anymore. They were real, dressed for the world. The zipper whispered upward, impossibly loud in the stillness. When it closed, something else sealed with it. Final. Intentional. I added the coat, a long black trench, and tied the belt firmly at my waist. That simple knot felt ceremonial, as if I were signing my name in fabric. At the vanity I kept my makeup restrained. Even skin. Soft color. Mascara. And lipstick. Deep red, not demanding attention but refusing to apologize. Each motion felt steady, deliberate. Not a disguise. A finishing touch. When I leaned back, the face in the mirror was undeniably mine. Familiar yet reassembled. Fear still lived there, shadowed in my eyes, but it no longer ruled the whole picture. I saw a woman. Nervous. Present. A surge of doubt hit hard. You could still stay in. Sweatpants. Television. No one would know. But another voice, quieter, steadier, answered back. If not tonight, then when? The heels of my ankle boots clicked softly as I stood taller. The crossbody bag slid over my shoulder, my hand instinctively finding the strap. A practiced gesture. Suddenly natural. At the door, my heart pounded wildly. One last look at the mirror. She looked terrified. She also looked ready. The doorknob was cold against my palm. The question returned one final time. Are you brave enough? I didn't answer. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The lock clicked shut behind me, sharp, decisive. Like punctuation at the end of a sentence I'd been rewriting my entire life. I was outside. And there was no going back. I carried my old name with me like an invisible tag pinned to my coat. The hallway outside my apartment felt like contested territory, a mute, carpeted limbo suspended between the safety of my door and the city's blunt indifference. Not home. Not yet exposed. A place where breath stalled. The air was flat and tired, layered with the ghosts of someone's reheated curry and the sharp bite of lemon disinfectant. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, buzzing like insects. I moved through it stiffly, hyper-aware of my body in motion. Every step felt exaggerated. The modest heels on my black boots, so reasonable just minutes ago, now felt treacherous, like balancing on narrow ledges. Don't fall. The thought repeated like a prayer. My shoulders were locked high with tension. My spine felt bolted straight. I fixed my gaze on the elevator at the end of the hall as though it were an escape hatch. Just reach it. Then the lobby. Then outside. Break it into pieces. The elevator doors closed behind me with a dull thud, sealing me inside a box of mirrors. There was nowhere to look that wasn't me. A woman stared back, knuckles white around her bag strap, eyes flicking nervously to the glowing numbers above the door. Was that what strangers would see? Or would they see something else? Something wrong, something pretending? The thought iced my blood. My breath fractured into quick, shallow pulls. The elevator jolted to a stop. 3rd floor. Oh, please. The doors slid open to reveal Mrs. Gable, my elderly neighbor, bundled in a wool coat with her tiny poodle tucked under one arm. She always smelled faintly of peppermint and kindness. Her eyes lifted, paused, just long enough for my entire body to brace for impact. I waited for confusion. For recognition. For the awkward pause where everything breaks. It never happened. "Well, Happy New Year, dear," she said warmly, stepping inside. Her dog barked once at my boots. I managed something that might have been a response. The doors closed. She hummed softly as we descended. Didn't look at me again. Not out of discomfort, out of disinterest. She had clocked me as a woman who lived in her building, unfamiliar but unremarkable, and moved on with her night. That was it. My apocalyptic fears had collided with nothing. My heart was still racing, but now it carried something else with it. A delicate, almost impossible sense of relief. A seed pushing through cracked ground. The lobby was empty. A mercy. I shoved through the glass doors and stepped onto the sidewalk. The cold struck hard, slicing through wool and finding bare skin between dress and boot. I sucked in a sharp breath and instinctively pulled my coat closer, curling into it without thinking. The movement flowed easily, automatic. That startled me more than the cold. I shivered, the sensation rippling through me, half weather, half revelation. The street roared. Horns snapped. Music leaked from a passing car. Laughter bounced between buildings. Steam rose from mouths and grates alike. The city surged and pulsed, alive in every direction. And I was inside it. Just one small, shaking component swept into motion. The subway station was 2 blocks away. It might as well have been miles. Every oncoming pedestrian felt like a test I hadn't studied for. I dropped my gaze to the pavement, dissecting my own movements. Too stiff? Too long a stride? Too much swing? The bag strap suddenly felt foreign. My hand kept adjusting it over and over, betraying my nerves. They're staring. They know. A man passed and smirked, or maybe he didn't. Maybe he was just distracted. My mind spun wildly. I should have worn the jeans. The noise of the street warped, friendly sounds twisting into imagined judgment. Laughter felt aimed. Shame flushed hot against my cheeks, burning despite the freezing air. At the corner, I stopped with a knot of strangers, pulling inward, trying to disappear into fabric and shadow. A group of college-age guys stood nearby, loud and loose with excitement. Their energy pressed against me. I fixed my eyes on the red crosswalk signal, unblinking. "Yo, look, they're already setting fireworks downtown," one said. I glanced where he pointed. For a split second one of them looked at me, not at me, just past me. The way you glance at a lamppost or a trash can without registering it. Then the light changed. The crowd surged forward and carried me with it. Feet moved in unison. Bodies flowed together. And in the middle of the crossing, hemmed in by strangers, a quiet realization surfaced. He hadn't seen me the way I feared. I wasn't a spectacle. I wasn't a secret exposed. I was just another person waiting for a light to change on New Year's Eve. The fear didn't vanish. but it dimmed like static turned down a notch. Beneath it, something steadier emerged, the clean, rhythmic click of my heels on concrete. The subway entrance yawned open ahead, exhaling warm, stale air that smelled of nuts, metal, damp stone, and electricity. I descended the steps, fingers wrapping tightly around the cold rail. Below, the street's chaos dissolved into echoes, trains screaming past, coins clinking into a musician's case, a saxophone pouring out a slow, aching version of Auld Lang Syne. The platform churned with people in every shape and style imaginable, tourists bundled in bulky coats, locals sleek and sharp, laughing groups already glittering with plastic glasses and cheap tiaras. The variety was oddly reassuring. In a crowd this mixed, it was easier to breathe. I leaned against a tiled pillar and waited, letting myself exist, quietly, imperfectly, among everyone else. My instinct was to weld myself to my phone, to let its glow become a barricade between me and the world. But my fingers shook too badly to type, and hiding behind a screen suddenly felt like cheating. Oh. You didn't come all this way to disappear into pixels, Riley. You came to be present. So I lifted my head and watched. Not with that tight, paranoid scan for danger, but with something softer. Curious. Tentative. Almost gentle. A couple nearby leaned into each other, stealing a quick kiss just as the headlights of the incoming train flared down the tunnel, painting their faces gold for a heartbeat. A cluster of women stood laughing, hands busy with scarves and stray curls, fixing each other without needing to ask. Their familiarity moved like a private language. One of them, standing close enough that I could see the texture of her coat, hugged it tight around herself and shuddered dramatically, eliciting groans and laughter from her friends. I froze. I'd done that. Exactly that. Outside. Without thinking. Seeing the gesture reflected in someone else, someone unquestionably, effortlessly herself, sent a quiet warmth through me. Not triumph. Just confirmation. Maybe my instincts weren't wrong after all. The train thundered into the station, shrieking and wind-blown. The doors opened and the crowd surged, carrying me forward whether I was ready or not. Inside was a crush of bodies and fabric, wool brushing wool, leather creaking, heat blooming in pockets. I snagged a vertical pole and wedged myself into a sliver of space. I could feel the warmth of strangers through my coat, catch the powdery perfume of the woman beside me, the bitter coffee breath of the man behind. Normally this would have wrecked me. I'd be folding inward, shoulders rounded, apologizing with my posture for taking up air. Every inch of space would feel stolen. But tonight, something had shifted. Maybe it was the lace hidden beneath my dress. Maybe it was the confidence stitched into that deep red lipstick. Or maybe, finally, my body and my mind were speaking the same language. I was tense, yes, but not ashamed. I wasn't shrinking. I was bracing. The train lurched. I swayed with it, fingers tightening on the pole. The woman next to me stumbled slightly and bumped my arm. "Oh, sorry," she said. "It's okay," I answered. My voice came out softer than it used to be. A little breathy. A little higher. And unmistakably mine. She smiled, quick, easy, and turned back to her phone. The world remained intact. Another catastrophe that never arrived. Each non-event chipped away at the glacier of fear lodged in my chest. When we surfaced into Times Square, it felt like stepping onto another planet. Light slammed into me from every direction. Billboards blazing like artificial suns, colors pulsing and shifting endlessly. Sound wasn't just noise, it was pressure vibrating through bone and muscle. I stopped short near the barricades, stunned. The crowd stretched endlessly, bodies packed together in a living, heaving mass. And suddenly my earlier terror of being noticed felt ridiculous. How could anyone isolate me in all of this? I wasn't just anonymous, I was infinitesimal. The thought didn't make me feel small. It made me feel free. The grip of self-consciousness loosened. I wasn't outside the moment watching through glass. I was inside it, cold, excited, breathing the same electric air as everyone else. I began to move, threading carefully through the crowd, slipping into gaps as they opened. "Excuse me," I murmured. People shifted automatically, barely registering me. No looks. No reactions. The walk that had felt mechanical on my quiet block transformed here. No one walked normally, we all shuffled, constrained by bodies and barricades. My careful heel steps didn't stand out. They blended. I found a spot with a clear view of the ball, its glittering geometric surface hanging high above us like a promise. Wind tore through the avenue and I hunched instinctively, tucking my chin into my coat, arms crossing tight. And then it hit me. I wasn't interrogating myself anymore. I wasn't asking, is this how a woman stands? Is this how a woman reacts to cold? I was just standing. Just cold. My body responded and I let it. The question shifted inward. Not what do they see, but what do I feel? The sting of wind on my cheeks. The bass thudding through the pavement into my boots. The flutter of fear, braided with something bright and sharp and thrilling. I was here. Sure here. For a while I simply existed, absorbing the noise, the lights, the collective anticipation humming through thousands of people pressed together. Fear hadn't vanished, but it had faded into background static. I no longer felt like a trespasser. I felt included. Nearby stood a small group, friends probably my age. 2 men, 2 women. They laughed easily, warmth radiating from them like a shared campfire. Their casual banter felt like a glimpse into a life I desperately wanted access to. I tried not to listen, but I did. One of the women caught my attention. Curly brown hair bounced when she laughed, cheeks flushed pink from the cold. A bright blue scarf wrapped her neck, vivid against the winter-dark crowd. There was an openness about her, an uncomplicated joy that drew the eye. I must have lingered too long. She glanced over, and our eyes met for half a second. I snapped my gaze away, heart slamming up into my throat. Idiot. He saw you staring. He thinks you're some kind of creep. The fear rushed back, but weaker now, less convincing than before. And for the first time, instead of believing it completely, I questioned it. Look at the soda billboard. Just look at the stupid soda billboard and do not look back. Heat rushed up my chest and into my face, that old reflexive burn of embarrassment. I forced my eyes to stay fixed on the glowing screen overhead, something fizzy and oversized and meaningless. After what felt like an eternity, I dared a sideways glance. She was already turned away mid-laugh with her friends. If she'd noticed me staring, she hadn't cared. My lungs finally remembered how to work and I exhaled shakily. The crowd compressed again as more people poured into the barricaded space, and suddenly the woman in the blue scarf was right beside me. Our shoulders brushed now and then as the mass of bodies shifted. My muscles locked. Don't react. Don't flinch. Don't exist too loudly. God, I can't believe we actually came out here, she said brightly, not aiming the words at anyone in particular. It's way colder than I imagined. I stayed quiet. That was just noise, just someone narrating the shared misery. Not an invitation. Then she turned toward me. Her smile was easy, unguarded. Your coat looks so much warmer than mine. I'm officially jealous. Every thought I'd rehearsed for this night evaporated. This wasn't suspicion, or curiosity, or danger. It was just conversation. Oh, I said stupidly, then cleared my throat. It is pretty warm. Wool. Fantastic, Riley. Oh, Pulitzer material. She laughed anyway, a genuine ringing sound. Smart. Mine's all drama, zero insulation. I'll be frozen solid by midnight. She extended a gloved hand, blue to match her scarf. I'm Chloe. My heart kicked violently against my ribs. This was happening. A woman was introducing herself to me. Casually, kindly, like this was the most normal thing in the world. I shook her hand. Mine trembled despite the leather glove. Riley. Saying it out loud to someone new felt surreal, like stepping into sunlight after years indoors. Riley, she repeated, testing it gently. That's a beautiful name. Then, with a grin, you here with friends, or are you brave enough to do this madness alone? Just me, I said, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. Respect, she laughed. My friends practically dragged me out of my apartment. She nodded toward her group, now loudly arguing about pizza like it was a moral philosophy. We stood together in a shared quiet, watching the light-soaked chaos around us. It wasn't awkward. It was companionable. By the way, Chloe added, leaning closer to be heard over the music, I love your lipstick. That color looks amazing on you. This wasn't about fabric or weather. This was about me. About a choice I'd agonized over hours earlier. Warmth spread across my cheeks, soft, pleasant, unfamiliar. Thank you, I said and smiled. A real one. Small, shaky but real. It's confident, she said simply. The word echoed inside me, startling in its possibility. As we talked, a man nearby shifted to let a family pass and ended up closer to me. Instinct snapped tight. I angled my body away, bracing for something unwanted. Years of vigilance flared instantly. He glanced at me, offered a polite closed-mouth smile, and then looked away. Nothing else. Minutes passed. Chloe was midway through a story about disastrously failed ice skating when the man turned slightly toward me. "Here it comes." "Crazy crowd, huh?" he said pleasantly. "It is," I replied. "Well," he added with another respectful smile, "Happy New Year just in case." And that was all. He turned back to the stage. No staring. No agenda. Just a simple human courtesy. The weight of it hit me all at once. He had seen me, categorized me without effort, and moved on. The normalcy of it nearly knocked the breath from my lungs. Chloe was still talking. I'd missed half her story. "Sorry," I said faintly. She laughed. "You looked miles away." "Just taking it in," I replied honestly. Something loosened in me then. The tension I'd been carrying since leaving my apartment finally began to dissolve. I laughed when Chloe laughed, and it felt unforced, unguarded. "So," she asked casually, "are you from the city?" "I am now," I said. "Moved here about a year and a half ago." "Queens born and raised," she said proudly. "What brought you here?" 1,000 truths pressed forward. I chose one that fit. A fresh start. She nodded with surprising depth. "Sometimes you have to redraw the map." The hours blurred together after that. Easy talk, shared jokes, her friends looping me in without hesitation. Someone handed me a spare hand warmer like it was nothing, and it felt like everything. As midnight approached, the crowd pressed closer. Chloe's arm brushed mine, then stayed there. The contact was grounding, anchoring me in the moment. The countdown began. 10.9. I caught my reflection briefly in a dark phone screen. Flushed cheeks, shining eyes, red lips parted in awe. 8. I thought of the woman who'd stood frozen in front of a mirror hours ago, terrified of a dress. 7. My body felt loose now. Present. 6. Chloe's smile was incandescent. 5. She slipped an arm around my shoulders, pulling me into her group without thinking. 4. I wasn't alone. 3. The ball dropped, the world erupted, sound and color colliding into pure sensation. 2. Confetti exploded overhead. Fireworks split the sky. Chloe hugged me hard, laughing into my coat. I hugged her back without hesitation, face pressed into her scarf. "Happy New Year, Riley," she shouted. My name, clear, unquestioned, real. Something inside me finally broke open. Tears came hot and unrestrained, and I let them. "Happy New Year, Chloe," I said, voice cracking. Later, when the crowd thinned and Sinatra echoed through the streets, Chloe grabbed my hand and pulled me into a laughing, clumsy dance. I moved. I spun. I didn't care how it looked. I wasn't hiding anymore. When we finally parted ways, her hug lingered. "Take care of yourself," she said. "I will," I promised. The walk home felt different. My heels struck the pavement with confidence. The subway ride was quiet, gentle, filled with tired joy. Back in my apartment, I stood before the mirror again. The woman there was messy, tear-streaked, confetti-streaked, and peaceful. No questions remained. I undressed slowly, reverently. The lace wasn't armor anymore. Just underwear. Just mine. I turned out the light and slipped into bed. I fell asleep, not proving anything, not performing. I fell asleep as Riley, finally entirely at home.